We got to have a positive and cheerful personality. Let's just think about that for a minute. You know, there are people that I've known in my life that just to see them made me feel good. John Clark here from the University of New Mexico is one of them. When I was just, we talked together for a while, 30 years ago. And when I would just see John, I felt good, all over, every time. And there are people like that. That's ideal for a conductor who has to recruit and retain singers. Being positive. Nobody wants to go sing for a sourpuss. And I have to work all the time at not being angry. Because nobody wants to sing for an angry conductor. I believe if here's a line between passive conducting, active conducting, intense conducting right in here, and here's angry conducting. Sopranos, I told you 17 times! Don't. That's crossing the line and becoming angry. I think the conductor should stay in this red zone of intensity here in order for it to be great and not tip over there. And if you're in here all the time, once in a while you're going to do it, then you have to apologize. Next phrase, hey, I'm really sorry, Sopranos. Really sorry. Love you. Just don't sing that way anymore. So let's look at our personality. When we see somebody, do we light up and smile and say hi? I think it's important. We have to love people and love music and love sharing music with people. Love every part of it. Teaching a class like this, and one conductor said, I don't agree with that. I'm very selective on whom I love. He said, I don't even love all of my family. I don't love all my neighbors. Because I was saying, do you have to love the people in your choir? And I think the answer is yes. You got to love people. And you got to really love music. And it has to show. Where the people say, I love this song because you loved it so much.
Video 2. Adding interest and variety to your conducting patterns. Section 1. Dynamics. Section 2. An explanation of beat styles. Beat style demonstrations. And a beat style and dynamics exercise. Section 3. Using your left hand, including 2 exercises to develop left hand gestures. Section 4. Additional techniques. The concept of cue and stay. Dealing with fermatas. And finally, clear and effective pickup beats.
In the discussion of dynamics, the first thing we want to say is don't take them for granted. There are 6 dynamics in most music, from pianissimo to fortissimo. And quite frequently we hear performances that range from about mezzo piano to forte. So let's remind ourselves, as I must do also, that there are 6 dynamic levels. And the size of the beat must correspond to the dynamic level. In other words, the dynamics dictate the size of the beat. That is, if it's pianissimo, the end of the baton might fit in the area of a tennis ball. If it's piano, a little larger, maybe it's a bowling ball. Mezzo piano, a little larger, quite possibly a basketball, if we're going to stick with the sports here. Mezzo forte, it's then down to the belt and up to the eyes. And I would say that there's a bigger difference between mezzo piano and mezzo forte, because mezzo forte is frequently anemic. And the conductor needs to be a little bit more animated, a little more visual. In mezzo forte, it's one of the forte dynamic levels, and it needs to be vital and alive. They all do, but there's a greater difference, I think, between mezzo piano and mezzo forte, generally speaking. So from this circular area of the mezzo piano, we would then rise eyes to the belt for mezzo forte. And then as we go to forte, we bust out the sides of the beat zone and up above the head for forte. And then fortissimo is everything you can do and still feel coordinated and in control of what you're doing. As large as you can conduct. for fortissimo. And I don't think that you need to feel self-conscious about really conducting big when the music is really loud. For one thing, it's going to inspire people to sing their fullest or play their fullest. And secondly, it will also enhance the audience's appreciation of what's going on the stage. Not that you should ever be a show or distract from the music, but there are times when the conducting does enhance the audience's appreciation of the music, and that would be one. Well, anybody can wave their arms, and if they're coordinated and are rhythmic, they can wave their arms in time with music. That doesn't mean they're doing anything other than waving their arms in time with music. And a lot of it is just that. Good music is doing this all the time. Crescendo, stress, diminuendo. Crescendo, stress, diminuendo. And so if the music's changing all the time, so do I have to change all the time. And that I must read the music like the clarinetist. And if it says C sharp, they can't play C natural. And the music will tell me how to look, what to do, and I must obey that. And there would be never a good piece of music anywhere that's this for 2 bars. That would be, instead of this, that would be that. And good music doesn't do that. This isn't thrilling for anybody. Yet, you see it all the time. Band directors. Before we laugh too much, choral directors are going, yeah. Beat styles are simply a reflection of the style of the music. Many of us, when we conduct, don't realize the fact that we conduct the same way over many measures of music that's changing in the process. But we aren't changing. We might be feeling a change within us, but we're not demonstrating the change visually within our beat style and patterns. And so let's begin, first of all, with the regular, old, normal beat that everybody usually does too much of, which we'll call the espressivo legato, or the expressive legato beat. That's easily recognizable. as I said, the problem with it is we use it too much. The first variance from that would be a light staccato, and that would be for music that's pianissimo, piano, or mezzo piano, and it's a stop beat. That is, the beat stops, 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 stops. Da 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 da. Now you could add to that a variety of this beat would be a little click on each beat. Yup, da 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 da, a little bounce, da 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 da, but nothing like that goes toward legato. Either a stop, where it comes absolutely to a stop. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Which is, by the way, extremely refreshing to those watching your beat. There is nothing as clear as a stop beat, and it's something we use least of all and should be using much, much more of the time. Now that little bounce on it would be if the light staccato, if the staccato or staccato-ish music were a little more dance-like, and you'd want to use that. Next beat we'll call the marcato beat. It has the same kind of stopping motion, the same picture of the beat where it's down, over, back, up, down, over, back, up. And the light staccato also went down, over, back, up. But we don't move over into where the fourth beat usually goes, but down, over, back to the center, and then up. In the marcato beat, it's exactly the same thing, but you use it for mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo, and you come down solid with white knuckles. Fingers aren't breathing now. It isn't relaxed. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, down, over, back, up, stop, 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 for that kind of marcato, halting music. Now for the next one, we would go to what we call the full staccato. That would be music that is staccato or staccato-ish type music, or in that same category of staccato would fall syncopated. Either for the light staccato, syncopated would fall in that category if it's pianissimo, piano, or mezzo piano. Or in the full staccato, or the full bounce beat, we might call it, for mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo, for syncopated or staccato music, which would be like this. I'll do it slow motion first. A bounce, and a bounce, and a bounce, and a bounce. Down, and you bounce away from the direction for your next beat. This way to go that way, and bounce that way to go this way. Bounce this way to come into the center, and bounce up for the fourth beat. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the difference in that and the marcato beat of stop, 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 stop is simply the more buoyant, bounce-like, happy nature in mezzo forte, forte, or fortissimo music than the marcato driving music would be. We'll leave that now and go to the last one, which is non-espressivo, or not expressive at all, where you just want the people to know where they are in the piece. For example, if your choir were singing a whole note, tied to a whole note, tied to a whole note, while a soprano solo was singing. So the non-expressive beat for the choir on their whole notes tied to whole notes would simply be 1, 2, 3, 4, indicating nothing. There's a little bit of a beat on one, about an inch recoil, and then the rest of them comes back to the center again, like the other beats we talked about. But there's no 1, 2, 3, 4 going on, just 1, 2, 3, up. 1, 2, and you have to have your beats that are going this far slower than the ones that are going that far. So up is a little faster, down is a little faster, and then slower, slower, up, down, slower, slower. Otherwise you'll get there too soon and have to do a curlicue thing and then go up. And the reason we don't want to express anything is we don't want people to do anything except to keep a sustained tone moving. It might be in an orchestra where the violinists are doing tremolo for measure after measure after measure during an oboe solo. And we're just wanting a very even tremolo with no accents on the downbeat. It's also used occasionally in recitative conducting. And so we would have the espressivo legato, the light staccato, either with a stop or the little bounce on it. The marcato, 1, 2, 3, 4, heavy, firm, 3, 4, 1, and the full staccato, bounce, 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 and then the non-espressivo. And so you see, when it gets right down to it, the conductor regarding gestures has to read music just like the clarinetist or the soprano. We have to do what the music says. It will either dictate the size of our beats by the dynamics or the style of our beat by the style of the music. We must do both according to the dictates of the music. I've designed a little exercise to help in the practicing of beat styles. And they change throughout the exercise, where we have the light staccato, full staccato, marcato, espressivo legato, and the non-espressivo. When practicing this, I would suggest you sing and do two things to extreme. Sing the styles in an extreme manner. If it's legato, very legato. If it's marcato, very marcato. And same thing with your conducting. Let that be extreme too. So you're really practicing to the fullest what you're trying to accomplish. La ra 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 ram, la ta ra ta 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 ra ra ri ra ram, la ra 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 ri ra ram, ta ta ra ra ram pum pum pum, ta ra 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 ram. Pum pum pum, pum pum pum, ta ra ri ra ram, pum 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 pum, ram ta ra 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 ram, ra ri ra ra ram, la ta 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 ra ra ram, lan ta ra ram, pum. I'd like to talk just a moment about the language of the left hand. Generally speaking, conductors will frequently conduct in a mirror image of the right hand, the left hand just simply mirroring the right hand. Occasionally, they'll parallel, and that's okay. We all do it, and it's fine, but it should not be the majority of the time. The left hand should develop a language of its own independent of the right hand, where the right hand consistently does the beat pattern and the left hand does other things, such as cueing sections to come in, inviting them to come in, demanding that they come in. Cueing, most important. Secondly, a long phrase over 2 measures might be done by beginning over at the right shoulder and having the hand come through 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 to develop line in the singing. That's one of the more actually graceful and beautiful uses for the left hand. Then there would be the crescendo, where you start at the waist right here and you ask for volume and crescendo, or you do this to ask for the diminuendo. And you have to be careful that when you're doing the crescendo, you're not getting way out here someplace and space diminishes your intensity. You stay up here as though you were shaking hands with somebody and you were both pushing like this into each other. That kind of intensity is we want to start right here by the belt and not go very far. It's intensity, not distance, that's important here. And then the diminuendo, a whole different feeling of softly now, please. Come on, crescendo, people. Softly now, please. And then sforzandi and a stress. Anything the music calls for that's special, the left hand can somehow indicate. As the right hand continues to consistently give the beat pattern, the left hand is doing its own language. We could develop a little exercise in which we would cue the 4 sections of the choir. We would then do 2 measures of a sustained long line phrase. We would crescendo and then diminuendo, sforzando and stress, and then a final long line phrase followed by the release, which is the sole responsibility of the left hand. The right hand never does the release. Someone in an orchestra will play the next note when you do that because they're taught and conditioned that when they see the right hand move, they're to play something. So in a fermata, for example, when you hold it, you release with the left hand and then go on to play with the right hand. So that exercise would be something like this, cueing the basses, the tenors, the altos, and the sopranos. And then the long line, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Crescendo, 2, 3, 4. Softly, 2, 3, 4. Sforzando, sforzando. Stress, stress. Long line phrase again, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release. Now let's carry it one step further with the right hand consistently doing a beat pattern of 4 while the left hand is doing its individual language. We'll try that. Okay? We cue the basses, the tenors, the altos, and the sopranos. And then we have a long line, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a crescendo, 2, 3, 4, and a diminuendo, 2, 3, 4. Sforzando, sforzando, stress, stress. Long line, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, release. Putting both languages together. There are sometimes, we might add, that the left hand doesn't have to do anything. But and it's refreshing for the orchestra or the chorus to once in a while just see the clarity of that without 2 things to have to look at. And when that happens, it looks a little awkward to just hang the hand down like this. Better to pretend there's a snap on your wrist here and a snap on your belt. And that's home base for the left hand when it's not being used. And then you depart from that and do whatever it's supposed to do and then come back to that. So use the left hand occasionally for mirror conducting, occasionally for parallel motions, whatever you want to do like that. But most of the time, let it express its own language, independent from the right hand. So we not only predetermine and work on the skills that you are conducting, what's the elbow, what's the finger, what's the third finger, the middle finger, the little finger, the elbow, the shoulder, the wrist. What is it doing for mezzo piano, staccato, and every other kind of music? What is it really doing? And plan that, but plan in every song how we're going to conduct every measure. And none of us do that. I know, none of us do that. Because we feel we don't have to. If we know the song, we just get up and we can conduct. Sure we can, but how well? Do we absolutely look like the music is about to sound all the time? Now I said about to sound because conducting is preparation in advance. Would you all be cymbal players over here and go like that on beat 4? 1, 2. Right. You did it just fine, but I wasn't with you when you did it, was I? Do it again, same thing. 1, 2. I was over here with these people as you were doing it. I prepared you on the 3rd beat, and while you were doing it, I was busy preparing somebody else, as though there's some place you're supposed to be all the time. You're not conducting everybody, and you're not conducting nobody. You're conducting somebody until somebody else needs you. And in the choir, you're conducting the sopranos till another section needs you. And you stay with the sopranos until that point comes, so that you're inspiring the sopranos to do better than if you were not there. And if that's for 2.5 measures, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then we're here with the altos or somebody else. And we stay with them until somebody else needs us. And it's cue and stay, cue and stay, cue and stay, cue and stay. And we would never be caught dead doing this. Yet we laugh because we've all seen it and probably done it. When we're up out of the music, if we really know it, and we're not thinking, oh God, what comes next? But we really know it, that's when we're at our best in conducting, pulling it out of the souls of the people, or daintily pulling it that way, or whatever it is, doing it free from this thing down here. And so you develop so that when you look down, you take a picture of the whole page, and you look up and you retain the picture, because you studied it so much before the first rehearsal. You know the piece cold before the first rehearsal and all its structural sections and long phrases, short phrases, and all those kind of things, that when you go into the first rehearsal, you look down, you're looking to familiar territory. A conductor leads people, and how can you lead anybody like this? You can't. You lead like this. I'd like to talk for a moment about cueing. We don't only cue because we think people might not come in. They'll usually always come in just fine without us. We cue not only in rehearsals, but especially in a performance, so they will sing it better than had we not been there, more inspiringly than had we not been there. And so when we cue, we need to stay with the people we've cued, or the person, whether it's the second oboe or the tenor section, whoever it was. We cue and stay, as opposed to like this, cue and leave and look back at the score. Cue and leave and look back at the score. Or cue and just conduct everybody. Or cue and conduct everybody. Cue and stay with the person until the next cue is needed, and then cue and stay with them. Why stay? So that you will inspire them to sing or play better than they've ever done before. Now, if you did that continually, you'd have to memorize the music, which I do not think is a necessity. I think if you're looking up out of the music 90 to 95% of the time, that's fine. But to cue and stay with one section, and stay there with intensity, if the music is intense, until it's time to bring somebody else in, and then stay there with that section or player until it's time to bring in the violins over here, and stay with them, and inspire them and motivate them until it's time for the sopranos to come in, and then stay with them and motivate them until it's time for the bass section, and then the cellos, whatever it might be. Cue and stay with intensity. Cue and stay with intensity. And I think that's the most important thing you can do to get an inspiring performance. Obviously, that cueing and staying has to be on a foundation of your own passion and your own knowledge of the score, granted. But staying, you know, when you sang in a choir, if the conductor looked at you and kept looking at you, you sang better than you had been, because you thought it's being expected of you, and you also, your ego liked that. And so if you want the choir to give you every bit of your money's worth, stay in their eyes, your eyes in their eyes, your eyes in their eyes. Occasionally, a quick glance at the score to take a picture and remind you of your structural analysis and what's coming next, and then stay out of it and stay in the emotions and the eyeballs of the people you're working with. An orchestra will appreciate that just as well as a choir. Let's talk about fermatas. The most important one point in discussing fermatas is that when you come to the fermata, on whichever beat it might fall, you simply freeze and remain motionless with your right hand until it's time to go on. Now, during that fermata, your left hand might ask for a crescendo or a diminuendo it might release the note. But the right hand does not move until it's time to go on. It doesn't help the crescendo or stir up vitality in the choir. It simply freezes, and the left hand does everything else. And when it's time to go on, it gives a preparatory beat to the next beat, and then you go on. Because especially if you're working with an orchestra, if they see the right hand move after a fermata is once enacted, then they see the right hand move, they'll play the next note. So we might as well discipline ourselves for that kind of work, and then it'll work for anybody. So if there's a fermata, we'll say on beat 2, 1, 2, and you just freeze there, and you crescendo with your left hand, or diminuendo with the left hand, if you wish. Then you release, if there's a pause, and then cue for beat 3, 4, 1, and go on. Now that would be the case in which there was slash marks where you wanted a pause between the fermata note and the next note. I'll do it again. 1, 2, and I freeze. I release with my left hand always, then cue and go on for the next beats. Now, if I didn't want the pause, if there were to be a break but not a pause, then as I release with my left hand, the right hand would cue to go on with a preparatory beat like this. 1, 2, release and cue, go on, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Decide which it is. And rehearse these things, practice these things at home until you're completely comfortable with them, and they happen almost automatically, so that you never take a situation like that to your ensemble and make a mistake in front of the ensemble. You must be secure with every potential conducting problem before you get into that first rehearsal. So if the fermata was on 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, freeze. Crescendo a little, diminuendo a little, release, go on, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I take it right into the middle, 4, and the preparatory beat will be straight up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, release, prep, and go on. Now if the prep and the release at the same time, 1, 2, 3, 4, release and prep, 1, 2, 3, 4, release and prep, 1, 2, 3, 4. But the main thing is on a fermata, come to an absolute stopping and stay there with the right hand and do whatever you're going to do with the left hand, and then prep to go on. It'll work every single time. Anytime there's a problem with a fermata, it's because the conductor isn't adhering to those rules. And I found that you can go in and out of fermatas without explaining to anybody how you intend to do it, and they'll follow you explicitly if you follow the rules. Four, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. preparatory beats need to be very clear, very well thought through, and very disciplined, because they indicate to the performers exactly how they're supposed to sing or play on that first instant of making sound. They must indicate the tempo, the dynamic, and the style, and exactly the tempo, and the right dynamic, and the style of sound. That means you can't give a slow preparatory beat and then go fast and expect it to work, or a fast one and then slow down. It has to be, and I think it's good to use a metronome to deal with this. And sometimes you even think a measure in advance, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and if it's something you're not really sure of. But working with a metronome is the best way to make sure the tempo is right. Now, if the dynamic level is pianissimo, your preparatory beat will only be that big. If it's marcato forte, it'll be like that. The rules of all that we do in style would come to play here for the preparatory beat. Tempo, dynamics, style. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
And remember, it's a process till you die. I remember when they carried almost holding Stokowski to get him to finally come out on the stage at 90 or something like that. And he'd walk out like this and get on the podium with the bars behind him, and then he'd start the music, and he was no longer an old man. When the music was over, he was old man again, and they helped him on. But the music will keep you alive. I have very serious sciatic nerve troubles. It goes down my left hip, my left leg. I'm going to have surgery on it. But I've never experienced pain in a rehearsal ever. Not even a 3-hour rehearsal, with another 3-hour rehearsal later on that day. Never. The music feeds and feeds and feeds. It's incredible.
Well, we finished our 2 videos. We all come from different situations, different kinds of choirs, some in the pop style, some chamber, some symphony choruses, elementary, junior high, high school, and college. But I think the one thing that we can all do is strive for absolute excellence in ourselves and from our group. I remember my first church choir had only 11 people in it, but I was thrilled, and I made $4 a week, sophomore in college. And since that very day, every group I've worked with, I thought, I have to be great for them, and then I have to inspire them to follow that lead of greatness. And so whatever your situation might be, appreciate it, love it, and be great for it. And I think, there's no limitation on any of us. The only limitation of a choir is the conductor. And there's not a conductor alive who has limits on what he or she might do. So we'll be as great as we want to work toward getting or being. And the choir will become as great as we're capable of leading them. So let's commit to excellence in every detail of our art. And may we also establish that true art is the expression of feelings, whether it be in poetry, theater, dance, form, design, singing, playing, composing. We express feelings. The composer, the performer, expressing feelings. And if our music is not excellent, no feelings will emerge. It will simply be bad music. But if the music is great, with a church choir of 11 or a symphony chorus of 250, An impact will be made on the listener. Lives will be changed. Lives of the performers and lives of the listeners and lives of we conductors. Because that's the potential of art. So let's never accept a limit or a limitation on us or our performers. Let's find the ultimate in excellence at everything we do and everything we teach. And we'll all be better for it. Thanks for watching the videos. Good luck.